So the ongoing saga with my radiator. I should have my new one back from reconditioning in the next couple of days. So I've made a start stripping the car down for the new old radiator. Get rid of this crappy new one that leaks. So fan shroud's out, fans off. I'm just about to drain the system down, all the pipes off, and get it ready. What I want to do is there's quite a bit of water underneath the rad sitting on the core support, so I want to dry everything out properly over the next day or so, and look at possibly repainting underneath where the rad sits. Some rust proof paint, but yeah, pile of bits collecting on the floor as I strip them off. Got my new fan shroud there that's going to go on when my radiator comes back. So yeah, I'm going to crack on and start draining the coolant down now, getting the pipes apart. I've ordered a couple of other bits for my car this week. I had the issue with the key buzzer not working intermittently, and I've stripped the column down. I've repaired the original horn relay and buzzer that was behind there. It was a bit intermittent with the horn as well, so you can actually, the old relays, you can take them apart and clean them. So I really scrubbed it all out and cleaned it nicely, and it works a treat for the horn. But the buzzer, the key buzzer, still intermittent. And what it is, on the ignition barrel itself, there's like a little prong that comes out the barrel when you put the key in, which presses against the little switch, and the barrel just seems to be worn. So the little prong that comes down when you put the key in, it doesn't retract, so it's keeping the switch pressed in, hence why the buzzer's on all the time. So I've ordered up a new ignition barrel and a new switch, so I'll strip the column down again this week when those bits arrive, and go through that. So on to draining the coolant for now, and getting some of these pipes off. Just draining the last little bit out, last little bit of coolant out. I've got the top hose off, cleaning up the thermostat housing. I've actually got new hoses to put on. I know I changed them last year, but I thought, well, stick another new set on, and I've actually got a set of decent spares in. So yeah, work continues. Right, so I've got that crappy rad out, bottom hose off. It's a bit annoying. I had to cut the hose off to get it off in the end because it sort of melted to the rad. But as I said, I bought new new hoses anyway. So I've got a new bottom hose, put the new top hose on, and just connected it up at the thermostat housing. But I'm probably going to put the bottom one on tomorrow when the rad gets here, because it's probably going to be easy to get the shroud in, and the radiator, put it all in, and then connect the bottom hose up. The other thing I'm going to do, just along the bottom of the core support, also they had a bit of leakage or whatever, it's a little bit of surface rust there both ends, so I'm going to just finish thoroughly drying that panel out along there, and I'm just going to give it a little coat of black rust proof paint, just hand painted with the Hammerite rust proof. I think you don't see it anyway when the rad's in there and the shroud's on, but it just protects it, knowing I've had lots of coolant down there. So yeah, I'm going to clean that up, finish drying it up, and then give that a coat of paint. Alright, so I've dried out the bottom of the radiator core support, and given it a coat of black Hammerite rust proof paint. So there was some surface rust, and I suppose where the radiator's rubbed and coolant's been on it, it's got a bit of surface rust, so I think it makes sense while the rad's out just to rust proof it. It's obviously been painted at some point, it's pretty good condition, but I just makes sense while it's out. So you don't see any of this anyway, because the rad sits on top, but just protects it while it's out. As I've mentioned previously, I've put some wiring in for an electric fuel pump. I'm going to fit, or have fitted, so I've put the relay and the switch in as before, but what I've done is I've routed the main cable for the pump under the rear seat, and it's quite handy. There was a rubber bung here in the floor pan, the rear floor pan, so I've just drilled a little pilot hole through there so I can feed my cable. And I've wrapped the cable in harness wrap here under the seat, just to avoid any sort of chafing under the seat. So that goes all the way back under here. So put the seat back in, at least it just protects the cable from chafing. And underneath the car, the cable hangs out there at the moment, so I'm just going to temporarily tie that up and cable tie it up out of the way until I get the pump on. So I've got the back seat back in. I've just shone a torch in underneath just to check that the cable is not being crimped or anything by the bottom of the seat runners. Yeah, and it's plenty of clearance under there, so that's cool. That's another little job done. It's all neat and tidy under there, not that you see it, but cable protected. So I'm just going to wind that cable up underneath and just temporarily cable tie it up out the way until I get the fuel pump fitted. As I've said before in previous videos, it's not a fuel pump to replace the mechanical pump at all. It's just one to aid priming the carburetor when the car's been sat for a while. But when I get the pump, I'll go through what sort of pump it is on the video. Alright, so just an update. I've got my reconditioned factory radiator back in. I've got the transmission lines connected back up. New hose at the bottom done. Putting new radiator shroud in. I've got to clean it up, rubbish from where I've been fitting it. New top hose and tower clamps. Just going to finish fitting back the electric fan. So yeah, the shroud so far, I haven't got the main fan on yet, so I haven't done any of this up yet, just in case I've got to slide it about a bit once I know where the mechanical fan sits. But yeah, progress. I'll carry on and give you another update shortly. Right, so I got the rad back in, fan shroud. I had to trim the shroud a little bit down this side for whatever reason. And looking at the old shroud, that was trimmed slightly as well, so I've had to trim that very slightly just so the fan doesn't hit it. I've got it up to temperature, but I've just been running it for about 20 minutes. Fingers crossed at the moment. Hopefully it's not at all. There's no leaks. So yeah, she's sitting there quite nicely. Been ticking over for about 20 minutes now. So I'm going to shut her down in a sec and let her sit overnight. I wanted to take it out and give it a run, but the white roads are too damp tonight. So what I'll do, if the weather's good tomorrow, I'll put the grills back in. I'll check the coolant level first thing, and then yeah, hopefully take it for a little lap tomorrow. But so yeah, progress so far. Well, I'm going to call it a night for now. I've strategically placed some cardboard under the front there so I can come down in the morning and check for any leaks. But yeah, I've let her cool down now, come out and so check it tomorrow, check the coolant level. So it ran up for 20 odd minutes or so. Heaters are piping hot, got loads of air out of it while I was running up with the cap off. So just a quick recap, that's the original factory radiator. It's still got the tag down there. I'd had replaced it for that aluminium one, which didn't last long, so sent this one away for reconditioning. It had been recored previously in the States. It's got a four-row core in it, and they pressure tested it and said the core was fine. It just had a couple of little weeps around some solder joints, so they fixed all that. They chemically cleaned it, put a new tap in the bottom and painted it black, so it does stink a bit at the moment where it's got hot. New fan shroud. I said I did have to trim a bit of it out the side there, for whatever reason. I think personally, when the car was restored and put back together, the radiator panel might be slightly off to the driver's side, because there's no adjustment really in these shrouds. I mean, you can drill the holes out and elongate them, but that'll look pretty rubbish. So thankfully it's only needed sort of trimming out on the bottom corners and not hugely noticeable, and I've sort of shaped it and sanded it down so it's not obvious like I've smashed a big chunk out of it. So hey, I suppose it is what it is. I put a brand new radiator cap on because the other one I was suspect as well. New hoses, new tower clamps. Put my electric fan back on in there, tested that runs. I'm going to leave the grills off tonight. Like I said, I want to test or check for fluid and that in the morning, or any leaks, and if I've got to get back in there and do anything, it saves taking it all apart again. So yeah, that's just an update for today. I'll be back onto her tomorrow. So that's next morning. I've just checked for any general leaks overnight. Touch wood at the moment, there's no evidence. I've had a look around all the hoses and connections, and yeah, touch wood all seems to be good. I've just topped the radiator up. It took about another half a litre, so that's right up to the cold max now. And I'm just going around at the moment, taking out a bolt at a time again. Once I put it together yesterday, I always like to grease all the threads up on the bolts. So yeah, I'll just take them out and dip them in a little bit of multi-purpose grease. Just stops anything rusting, makes them easier to get out again in the future if you have to. The other little thing I noticed as well is when I took the grills out, the retaining screws, again, they just get a bit surface rust around them. My garage does get a bit damp in the winter. I do use a dehumidifier. But yeah, you just little bolts like this, you tend to get a bit of surface rust on them, and I've taken them all out before and cleaned them. So what I've done is I've cleaned them all again on the wire wheel. I've actually given them all a coat of like clear lacquer. Hopefully that'll stop any surface rust. Yeah, so I've done that before on some of the interior screws that get a bit of a surface rust on them. Just take them up, clean them up on the wheel, and give them a nice thick coat of lacquer. It's only a cheapy Halfords one I use, and that's it. Just give them a nice coat. Let those dry out for 2 or 3 days. So yeah, I'll put those back in today. So yeah, I'm going to start putting the grills in. The driver's one I'll have to come back out again at some point soon, because I've got my new emblem coming. So I probably won't bother putting the plastic piece in along the top for now. So I'll get my grill in and go from there. Just another little job I'm doing. I'm just taking the solid fan, fixing bolts out now one at a time. And I'm just going to put a little bit of blue thread lock on them and nip them up. Not sure if it needs it, but the thought of fan bolts coming loose now I've been at it, don't bear thinking about. So yeah, I'm not going mad, just a little bit of the blue stuff. So yeah, take one out at a time and do that. It's been a couple of days now. I've started the car up today, run it up with the cap off again just to get any last little bits of air out of it, and I've taken it out for a good 20-minute drive. I come back, let it sit. I'm just sort of checking for any leaks, and so far so good. It's all dry. I did have one little weep on the transmission line in the bottom here, but I was able to do that up a little bit more, and the radiator was hot, so I'm hoping I'll give it another drive. Hopefully that's sorted that out. But yeah, it's so far so good. I think I said on a previous video when I'd had the aluminium cold case radiator put in, the running temperature of the car had dropped quite considerably. But I wasn't sure if it was due to the rad or the thermostat, because I'd put a new thermostat in the car at the same time. Now running for 20 minutes a day with the factory rad in, this is a 4-core one, as I've probably already said. There's no change in temperature now. It runs cool, as cool as it did with the aluminium rad in there. So the reduction in overall running temperature can only be down to thermostat. I didn't think to check or ask to check what thermostat came out of the car, but I suspect it's probably a 190 degree, because they say it is running noticeably cooler, or has done since the thermostat was done. So yeah, overall, even with the factory one in there now, I'm really happy with it. And it does actually look better with the factory one painted in black, and it's still got its factory tag on down the side here as well, so a bit of originality. So yeah, I'm going to obviously run it again over the next few days if I can, just keep an eye on it. But so far so good. My next job I'm going to be doing over the next day or so is mounting this electric fuel pump that I've talked about. It's a priming pump, not for constant use. I did quite a bit of research on these pumps, because I want one that the mechanical pump's going to draw through. So these facet ones, they're quite dear in comparison to other electric pumps, but when you read all the technical details on them, there's no anti-siphon valve or return valve or whatever in the pump itself. You can literally take these rubber bungs off and blow through it. So the mechanical pump, in theory, should have no problem drawing through it when this thing's not in use. It's a bit of a nightmare trying to find a suitable place to put it. They recommend mounting it vertically, but I'm not going to be able to do that. But they said as long as the inlet is lower than the outlet. So I'm going to probably have to mount it up under the floor pan here, but I've got to make a bracket so I can lower it down, because again, need it really to be not a lot higher than the tank. Otherwise it's probably gonna, well, they reckon you should put it down below the fuel level, but so as long as I can get it sort of midway down near the tank. But I've looked at all the other places under here to put it, it's just exhaust is too close and everything, so I don't want to hang it down too low under the car with fuel lines. So yeah, that's my job for the next day or so. I'm going to go up Tool Station or something and get some metal bracketry and try and make something that I can suspend it down. It does come with the rubber mounts as well, which I'll be using just to help with any, I suppose it helps keep the noise of the pump down. So and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it in the next week or two to Pilgrims, because I've got my new engine mounts now, and I've been laying around under the car on axle stands and that. It's a nightmare. I think the manifolds are going to have to come off to get to the top bolt, that goes into the block. So I'm just going to put it into Pilgrims. They've done some work for me before. I'm going to mount the pump and wire it in, but what I'm going to get them to do while it's up on the ramp is just plumb the pump in. Now, I don't want to cut any of the hard lines or anything on the car, so what I'm going to do is just have it with a hose temporarily from the outlet of the tank, obviously into the inlet of the pump, outlet of the pump to the hard line on the car, but I'll just have it done in fuel hose for now, and I want to run the car for a little while just to make sure that everything does work properly with the pump. It doesn't cause any issues or fuel starvation or whatever for the mechanical one, and if everything's good, then I'm going to get some hard lines made up out of the pump. I mean, they do come with these fittings. You screw in and put obviously a fuel hose and a hose clamp on, whatever, but I do think they look better with the hard lines. So that's what I'll do later on if everything works with the pump. I've also got the new set of bolts. These are the bolts that go from the engine mount to the actual engine block itself. Proper heads on them, washers. So yeah, I'm going to have Pilgrims do that for me, because I really do not want to be doing that job. It looks like an absolute nightmare, so I'm going to cheat and get someone else to do it on a ramp. So yeah, that's my plan for the next couple of days. Get this mounted up, try and run the car again a couple of times if I can, just to keep an eye on everything. I've got some new parts coming next week. I'll do another video next week, but I've got, say, my grille emblem coming, a new ignition barrel. I've got the little switch now that goes in the column for the key buzzer. That's the new switch, but there's no point stripping it all out to change the switch, because I need to change the barrel as well. So when that arrives next week, I'll take the column out, or the steering wheel, and the all the indicator mechanism. But I'll do a video on that and show you that. So that's my plan for next week. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for a lot of the comments I get on my channel as well. I know it's not a huge channel, it's not my intention, it's just a bit of fun really, and I've come into contact with a couple of people in the UK who've got the same car, and got chatting with them. So yeah, it's been really nice doing the channel, just to form those sort of contacts and meet people and who are like-minded. I'll see you on the next video next week, hopefully, once I've done my key buzzer.